Okay, that way the judge and the clerk can hear.
Mr. Miranda, this is Judge Perez. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I could hear you.
Okay, perfect. I can hear you just fine. We're about to get started on your pleas, okay?
Okay.
Alrighty, calling, well, let me go ahead and say, this is Judge Alyssa Perez, resuming the criminal docket for the 210th District Court for March 1st, 2022. Again, all matters being heard today are being heard in accordance with all emergency orders and directives regarding COVID-19. In addition to that, we are streaming all matters live via YouTube for public viewing. Calling cause numbers 2019 0D06012, 2021 0D00454, and 2020 0D01157, styled State of Texas versus Elijah Andres Miranda. May I have announcements, please?
Roa King for the State of Texas.
And Daniel Avalar for Elijah Miranda. Good afternoon, Judge.
And Mr. Miranda is appearing remotely from the police center. Mr. Miranda, I'm going to be asking you some questions. So I need to swear you in. If you would, please raise your right hand. Sir, do you swear or affirm that any testimony you provide will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. You can put your hand down. Would you state your name for the record, please?
Elijah Andres Miranda.
Mr. Miranda, as I mentioned, I'm going to be asking you questions regarding documents you may have reviewed with your attorney. The first of which is marked as State's Exhibit number 1, one for each case. Those are the plea papers for each of these cases. Within that document, you're guaranteed certain rights, including the right to remain silent, the right to trial by jury, the right to counsel, the right to confront and cross-examine witnesses, and the right to call witnesses on your behalf and in your defense. Mr. Miranda, do you recall reviewing those documents with your attorney and signing those documents?
Yes.
And did you understand everything contained within those documents?
Yes.
Mr. Avelar, have you had more than 10 days to prepare defenses for these cases?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did you explain the plea papers to your client?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you believe he has understood the admonishments, rights, and consequences of giving up these rights by entering pleas today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Miranda, are you satisfied with your attorney's representation of you?
Yes.
Mr. Avelar, do you have any reason to believe your client is not presently competent to enter pleas today?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Miranda, have you ever been found incompetent by any court?
I think by a misdemeanor court, but it was dismissed.
Okay, so I guess my question is, has a judge ever said, and I know maybe there is some mental health history, but has a judge ever determined that you were not competent, that you were not able to handle your personal affairs? Is that what you mean?
Well, it's because it was just the public defender that told me, that was representing me at the time, and that's what she told me. And then I was already time served for a misdemeanor charge, so that's what they gave me. But that's what she had told me, but the judge never told me that. It was just the public defender that told me.
And I
Mr.
can
Avelar,
expound, Your Honor.
Yeah, Mr. Avelar, go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. So the court's correct. There were some mental health issues he was addressing and currently is addressing, Judge, but there has not been, to my knowledge, a finding of incompetency by a court.
Okay, I don't recall there having been one in previous proceedings. Let me ask Mr. Avelar, since you have been representing Mr. Miranda or attorneys in your office, have you been able to, have there been any concerns regarding your client's competency?
No concerns, Your Honor.
Mr. Miranda, understanding that there may be some conditions, mental health issues that you might have you been able to communicate with your attorneys while this case has been pending?
Yeah, I have.
Have you been able to understand every step of the process, including today's plea?
Yes.
You understand what we're doing today, that you're entering a plea of guilty on these cases and there will not be a finding of guilt? Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything preventing you from understanding what we're doing today?
No.
Okay. So based on your testimony, your attorney's representations, and my observations of you, I'm going to find that you are competent to enter your pleas today, Mr. Miranda. Sir, are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes.
Where were you born?
El Paso, Texas.
Okay, so in cause number 2019-0D06012, the charge is burglary of a building. To that charge, what is your plea? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
In cause number 2021-0D00454, the charge is evading arrest or detention with a motor vehicle. To that charge, what is your plea? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
In cause number 2020-0D01157, count 1, you're charged with the offense of aggravated assault against a public servant. What is your plea? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
And in count 2, evading arrest or detention with a vehicle. Guilty or not guilty?
For that one, I want to do not guilty.
On which one, Your Honor?
I have count 2 on 1157. I had all guilties. Is there something different? His plea is not guilty on count 2.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Miranda, you don't want to plead guilty on that. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, because I thought those were just for the 4 original charges.
So there are a total of 4 under 3 cause numbers that I've read to you, Mr. Miranda. The first one that you pled guilty to was under cause number ending 6012. That was burglary of building. The second one under cause number ending 454, that was evading arrest or detention with a motor vehicle. That was a standalone charge you pled guilty to. That was evading arrest or detention with a vehicle. The last one, cause number ending 1157, that one has 2 counts. Count 1 is aggravated assault against a public servant. Count 2 is another evading arrest or detention with a vehicle. As to count 1, I'm going to ask you again, are you making a plea of guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
And as to count 2, you initially told me not guilty. Does that remain your plea?
Yes.
Okay. So the plea papers don't indicate as much. I don't know if you all want to talk about things or if we just simply don't have an agreement on this particular cause number.
I think Ms. Keenan and I can go over this. He is pleading to actually a more serious offense.
Mhm.
So
Can we
I
go
hate
on
to
a
use the
break?
words I hate to use the words that he's on the hook for a more serious offense. But if Ms. King needs to consider it more, I guess I would move to dismiss since he is pleading not guilty. If she doesn't want to dismiss it, then we might have to reset.
Mhm.
Judge, I can go ahead and dismiss count 2.
Okay. Okay, then by agreement, we'll go ahead and make the plea, obviously amend the plea agreement as to cause number 1157 to reflect that count 2 is being dismissed. The remaining count, there is a plea entered of guilty. So defendant has entered pleas of guilty on cause numbers 6012, 0454, and count 1, 1157. Mr. Miranda, are you making each of your pleas freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
I will find that you are making each of your pleas freely and voluntarily. Ms. King, would you summarize the evidence, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Were the state to proceed to trial on the indictment, the state would have proven each and every element the offense charged in cause number 2019-0D06012 and in cause number 2021-0D00454 and count 1 and count 2 in cause number 2020-0D01157 beyond a reasonable doubt. Judge, the defendant is pleading to a 10 years deferred adult probation. Additionally, there is a restitution amount of $989.97 made payable to DMD Custom Crates and Boxes. The address is on the state's plea paperwork. Furthermore, the state will dismiss count 2 in cause number 2020-0D01157 and dismiss cause number 2020-0C07104. And at this time, the state moves to admit Exhibit 1, as the state's plea paperwork, Exhibit 2 as Article 3914 disclosures, and Exhibit 3 as the indictment.
No objection.
Without objection, states exhibits 1, 2, and 3 are admitted. Mr. Avelar, is that your understanding of the plea agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Miranda, is that your understanding as well?
Yes.
Understand that the plea agreement is not binding on the court. However, if I were to reject it, I would allow you to withdraw your pleas. If I follow the plea agreement, you may not appeal these cases except on matters raised by written motion and ruled on before trial or by permission of the court. The next document I'm going to ask you about is the trial court certification of your right to appeal, again, one per each case. It is a document that explains your appeal rights. Because this is a plea bargain, or these are plea bargain or negotiated cases, you do not have an automatic right of appeal. Mr. Miranda, do you recall reviewing the trial court certification after you reviewed them with your attorney?
Yes.
Signed by your attorney and signed by me as well. Lastly, the motion for deferred adjudication. Mr. Miranda, do you recall reviewing the motion for deferred adjudication?
Yes.
Mr. Avelar, have you explained to your client both the benefits and detriments of deferred adjudication?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Miranda, do you understand that if you violate a condition of deferred adjudication, the court can proceed to sentence you up to the full range of punishment for these offenses? Do you understand that?
Yes.
And are you asking the court to grant you deferred adjudication?
Yes.
Okay, I will find there is sufficient evidence to substantiate findings of guilt. However, I will not enter findings of guilt at this time. Instead, I will defer further proceedings and place you on community supervision pursuant to the plea agreement for a period of 10 years. That is as to count one only on cause number 1157, and then as to the other two cause numbers, there will be a $4,000 fine. However, the entirety of that fine will be probated. 300 hours of community service, screen for TAP, urine and breath analysis, curfew, MHI screening, no contact with the complainants, the restitution that is owed. The cases will run concurrent with one another. Is there anything further, Ms. King or Mr. Avelar?
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor.
To clarify, Judge, did the court recite that the entire fine will be probated?
Yes.
The plea papers don't, I mean, no objection, but the plea papers don't reflect that. But
I understand. I don't think the dismissal is on there either. So
I appreciate it, Your Honor. Thanks,
Sure.
thanks so much.
good luck to you, Mr. Miranda.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate that, Your Honor. Thanks, Ms. King.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Luna. Ms. Hernandez, are you here for our plea?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm the interpreter.
Thank you very much. Let's go ahead. I don't know who has the function. Chris, if that's you, to do the plea for Mr. Luna.
Give me a second, Your Honor.
Sure.
Hi, Miss Erica.
How are you? You joined in here, interpreter?
I'm here to interpret. We're hired temporary basis, so I'm here to help whenever.
There we go.
Okay, cool. Okay, interpreter services have been started for you, Ms. Hernandez.
Sí, sí lo escucho.
Okay. And Mr. Shawala, if you'll
I'm
select the
here,
channel, I
Judge.
think we're good to go. And Roa, are you on English too?
Yes, Your Honor, I am.
Perfect. Gotcha. Are you ready, Alec? Can I hear you?
I'm
Okay,
ready,
yeah,
Judge.
gotcha. Okay, perfect. All right. Calling cause number 2019-0D02260, State of Texas versus Manuel Luna. May I have announcements, please?
Roa King for the state of Texas.
Alex Shawala for Mr. Luna. We're ready, Your Honor.
And Mr. Luna is appearing from the police center and is also utilizing the assistance of a court interpreter. Ma'am, would you state your name for the record, please? Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. As I mentioned, we are here for a plea. Mr. Luna, I'm going to be asking you some questions regarding your plea, so I need to swear you in. If you would, please raise your right hand. Sir, do you swear or affirm that any testimony you provide will be the truth and the whole truth?
Sí,
Thank you. You can put your hand down. Sir, would you state your name for the record?
Manuel Luna.
Mr. Luna, I'm going to be asking you about documents, the first of which is marked as State's Exhibit number 1. Those are the plea papers in this case. Within that document, you're guaranteed certain rights, including the right to remain silent, the right to trial by jury, the right to counsel, the right to confront and cross-examine witnesses, and the right to call witnesses on your behalf and in your defense. Mr. Luna, do you recall reviewing that document with your attorney and signing that document?
Sí,
Did you understand everything contained within that document?
sí,
Mr. Shawala, have you had more than 10 days to prepare a defense in this case?
I have, Judge.
And did you explain the plea papers to your client?
I did.
Do you believe he has understood the admonishments, rights, and consequences of giving up these rights by entering a plea today?
I do.
Mr. Luna, are you satisfied with your attorney's representation of you?
sí,
Mr. Shawala, do you have any reason to believe your client is not presently competent to enter a plea?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Luna, have you ever been found incompetent by any court?
no,
I wasn't, so I didn't hear an answer.
dije que no.
Okay. Have you ever been examined by a doctor or psychiatrist who has found you mentally ill?
Hasta ahorita no.
Okay. Have you been able to effectively communicate with your attorney, Mr. Luna?
Sí,
Okay, so based on your testimony, your attorney's representations, and my observations of you, I'm going to find that you are competent to enter your plea. Sir, are you a U.S. citizen?
no. Soy residente.
Where were you born, sir? Okay, so have you been able, Mr. Shawala, to go over any implications, any effect to his residency by pleading today?
I have, Your Honor. I've advised him that, of course, because laws can change, anytime anything happens in criminal court, there could be immigration consequences. However, based on my research into current law, the reduced charge, the different state of mind we're pleading to, and the facts of his residency status, under current law, there should be no effect, and that's why I've advised him.
Mr. Luna, do you understand that there can be any number of consequences, negative consequences, that we may not even be able to advise you fully of today? Deportation, if citizenship, all of those things. Do you understand that could be a result of your plea today? Do you understand that? And are you still asking the court to proceed with your plea?
Déjeme, tomo un poquito de tiempo porque ahorita eso no es lo que me explicaron a mí. ¿Puedo hablar un poquito más de lo
Okay.
Judge,
and
maybe,
Mhm.
que si puedo hablar un poquito más de lo que me explicaron a mí?
Were you going to ask to speak with him, Alec, or?
I was just going to reiterate, if I can, Mr. Luna, what we've discussed is this. Under current law, if you're convicted of this offense as indicted, you are subject to deportation. We've reached a plea agreement where they're going to reduce it to an attempted reckless misdemeanor, credit for time served. There will be no immigration consequences for that because you are a legal permanent resident who has been here for more than 5 years. However, laws can always change in the future, just in the same way that, you know, we could have people just say, we're not going to have permanent residency anymore, you're kicked out, right? We can never anticipate what the law is in the future. Under the law right now, this will not affect you. Does that make sense? Okay.
And so based on that, my question is, do you still want to proceed with your plea, Mr. Luna?
Sí.
Okay, so again, through negotiations, as your attorney has explained, although originally charged as an injury to a child, elderly, or disabled, and it is a plea to a lesser included Class B misdemeanor offense of attempted reckless assault. The range of punishment there, I think, is up to 180 days. But the plea agreement is to 1 day in the El Paso County Jail, credit for time served. So to that Class B assault, what is your plea, guilty or not guilty?
Culpable.
Are you making your plea freely and voluntarily?
Sí.
I will find you are making your plea freely and voluntarily. Ms. King, would you summarize the evidence, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Were the state to proceed to trial on the indictment, the state would have proven each and every element the offense charged, injury to a child or elderly disabled with bodily injury beyond a reasonable doubt. Judge, the defendant is pleading to a lesser included offense of Class B misdemeanor of attempted reckless assault causing bodily injury, and to serve 1 day in the El Paso County facility. And at this time, the state moves to admit Exhibit 1 is the state's plea paperwork, Exhibit 2, Article 3914 and disclosures, and Exhibit 3 is the indictment.
No objection.
Without objection, states Exhibits 1, 2, and 3 are admitted. The plea agreement, again, is what, 1 day credit for time served?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Schwella, is that your understanding of the plea agreement?
It is, Your Honor.
And Mr. Luna, is that your understanding as well?
Sí.
Okay, understand that the plea agreement is not binding on the court. However, if I were to reject it, I would allow you to withdraw your plea. If I follow the plea agreement, you may not appeal this case except on matters raised by written motion or ruled on before trial or by permission of the court. The next document I'm going to ask you about is the 1-page trial court certification of your right to appeal. It is a document that explains your appeal rights. Because this is a plea bargained or negotiated case, you do not have an automatic right of appeal. Mr. Luna, do you recall reviewing the trial court certification with your attorney and signing that document?
Sí.
Signed by your attorney and signed by me as well. So on your plea of guilty and the evidence introduced, I will accept your plea and at this time find the evidence substantiates your guilt. I will find you guilty of the lesser included offense of attempted reckless assault, and I will sentence you according to the plea agreement at 1-day confinement in the El Paso County Detention Facility. You will receive credit for any and all time that you have served. Is there anything further, Ms. King or Mr. Shawala?
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor.
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Good luck to you, Mr. Luna. Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you. If you have
Hernandez.
any questions, please call me, Mr. Luna.
Thank you, Mr. Shawala. Take care.
Okay.